All right, friends, welcome. So this session is purely to provide you with a structured format and possibly what you should expect in the class test. I normally do this where I provide students with a heads up on the possible areas, formats, and structure of the exams. It's not like giving you questions or pre-seen questions. That's not what I'm doing here. But naturally, for the auditing, we would expect that we could give you some coursework, a coursework where you could undertake some analytical reviews. Usually that's what I've seen based on my past experience teaching auditing in the universities. The last experience I had with Strathclyde, it was a good approach where we give students a case scenario where they go out, perform some analytical reviews, and then use that one to plan for the audit. And normally, the coursework would be centered on the planning phase of the auditing. So typically, that's not what we are experiencing here. We are having a class test. Okay, we're having a class test, not a coursework. So I always use the opportunity to give students a foreknowledge. Again, it's not the questions or answers I'm giving to students, but it's more of helping students to plan, focus their studies. It is not valuable or it's not value adding when students read materials which will not be examined. Okay, so that's what I'm trying to say. Let's go deep into it, and then I will just talk. So, auditing, to me personally, I'm not using my benchmark to assess somebody's. No, that's not what I'm doing. But personally, I think auditing is very easy. It's just technical. Auditing is not for everyone. That's the truth. Not everyone who is studying auditing here will end up becoming an auditor. You must have the passion to do the work and always be thinking of, you must have that technical ability to be able to think outside the box. Okay. In that case, you love auditing. But if you take it as a core text, just an academic exercise, you have to read, and then that one, you have to strategize your learning skills and tips so that you can pass. But if you have the passion, it flows naturally. Okay, it flows naturally. One more thing you should know is that you must have a good foundation in accounting. That is why in the program specification model descriptor, we have stated clearly, even in your model handbook, that you must have a good understanding of FA2, intermediate accounting. So from basic to intermediate accounting, you must have a full grasp of it before you can walk into this model. All right, so that is what we are doing. That's what I'm doing. I'm going to share some slides with you, and then I'll talk through it. Okay, so this is what I have. Let me expand this thing into full slide mode. All right, great. Okay, so like I said, auditing is easy. Personally, I find it easy. That's not my benchmark using it to assess you. I have never sat in an auditing class to be taught. I self-tutored myself, the auditing. For my ACCA exams, I did it at the university, two terms. I did auditing all on my own. And auditing was the best paper for my ACC exams more than 10, 11 years ago. So it is very easy. Just have the passion, think outside the box, ask questions. Ask questions. If you're the type who is not meticulous, who is not detailed, who is not paying attention to detail, then auditing, you will just be writing some superficial statements which will not fetch you much marks. Be detailed, ask questions. The format, we have all questions compulsory, no optional. The same thing will happen in the final exams. I'm not too sure whether I'll be doing this same thing for you in the final exams. Okay, so take good note of it. Let me be sure of one thing. All right, good. So I'm not sure I'll be doing this same thing, giving you a class test format or help. It's not required. I'm just doing it. Not all lecturers do it. It's not required that you should prepare a teaser or a warm-up or a format or a help guide for students to know how to focus their studies. It's not required. So I'm not too sure I'll do the same thing for the final exams. All questions are compulsory. Final exams will be the same. All questions are compulsory. Final exams will have the same format like this one. So take very good note of that. Final exams, you are going to have multiple choice and case studies as well. In the class test, you are having multiple choice, 20 multiple choice questions, each worth 2.5 marks. Final exams, you will have 25 multiple choice questions, each worth 2 marks. In the class test, you have only one case study worth 50 marks. In the final exams, you have 2 case studies. One has 30 marks, another has 20 marks. You do everything, nothing changes. Okay. And I'll say something at the end of this presentation. Okay, so let's move on. So for the multiple choice questions, so what it covers unit 1 to 4 of the model handbook. The scope is pervasive and requires good reading of the text, the core text, Millichamp and Taylor's 12th edition, ACCA AA. I mean, the main one, the AA, not the AAA, okay? We're talking of the, I don't see whether you can see from here, the auditing and assurance. This is not the exam kit I'm holding, but we're talking of that one. Okay. Alternatively, if you religiously study the lecture materials, lecture slides and videos, you should be 90% confident that you score some excellent grades. Don't forget the extra lecture materials and videos we populate on Aula. You need it. They help a lot. Auditing is so standardized that we cannot say that the auditing standards here is different from that over there, or the accounting standards here is different from. Accounting is one or by far the only profession which is standardized across board. You go and meet IAS 12 on taxation in Ghana, is the same IAS 12 you find here in the US. Nothing changes, the components doesn't. We've worked so hard over the years to harmonize the standards. So it's standardized. If you're having any alternative auditing book, I have an auditing book, an alternative one, which I use, Auditing and Assurance by McGraw-Hill. The same concept, the same understanding. If you have alternatives you think you are using helps, my friends, don't be worried that you are reading something outside of the scope of the work that you are doing. Okay. Similar questions. Questions are similar to prior year papers. Okay, use a holistic approach. So if you practice the past questions on model, you are 99% confident. Okay, the quizzes. We may rephrase the sentence. We will not repeat the statement verbatim. We may rephrase the statement. If I tell you 1 + 1 is equal to 2, and I tell you 2 + 0, it should also be 2. It's the same thing. We are just emphasizing. Okay. If you practice student self-testing questions, sometimes we populate this on Aula. We said before you start, you must be able to understand and answer these questions. We populate it on the introductory page. Any class examples, those of you who are doing the class examples and populating it on Aula, excellent jobs. I don't want to mention names, but there are consistent number of students, a few, just very few, and they consistently populate their answers. Then when I look at it, I'm surprised. I say, wow. And then you are doing so much well. Keep it up, okay? Don't have the confidence. Whatever you are doing, you see similar things in the exams, okay? Practicing past ACCA, auditing and assurance MCQs is excellent. If you have the exam kit, there are a lot of questions in it. The exams kit, either by Kaplan or BPP, you can find copies in the library. Good use of the exam kit. And like I said, go to the libraries, you'll find these materials there. Okay, let's continue. The questions are straightforward, fairly straightforward and easy. No ambiguity. They are just technical in nature, okay? Because it's not for laymen. We are not talking to laymen. We are talking to technical guys like you. So we'll be using the jargons, we'll be using the technical statements, the words which are very unique to our profession as accountants. That's what you find over there. Work fast, be fast. You are timed. You are timed. It's not a coursework where you have all the time, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks to write. No, you are timed. So please work fast. You will see the time, and I think 45, 1.5 hours. So be fast. Nothing is complicated. If only you've studied the text, nothing is complicated. If you follow the videos, the slides, nothing is complicated. If you have listened to your lecturers in the class, nothing is complicated. If you have attempted the class examples, I know a couple of you, many of you, not a couple of you, many of you have not been doing the tutorials and the class examples. There's nothing we can do. We cannot force you to do it. It's for your own good, okay? So there's nothing complicated. Those who have taken the pains to walk through this, man, you are good to go, right? Time, 45 minutes for the MCQs. You could have some simple scenario. I don't want to say a case, a simple scenario described. You read through it quickly in one minute, and there's a question assigned to that scenario for you to answer. You must appreciate the technical content, the jargons. Like I said, we are not speaking to laymen. We are speaking to a reserved class of students who understand their law. You go to law, they will be using their law words, okay, a priori, pro bono, and those terminologies. We are accountants. We were dealing with risk of material misstatement. We are taking of impairment, and we are talking of deferred taxation and statement of financial position, and so on and so forth. We're dealing with technical know-how, okay? Only one appropriate answer must be selected. You cannot choose more than one answer under any circumstance. Take note. You choose only one. You choose one answer. All right. Then there's the case study. Case study is also 45 minutes. Like I said, a foreknowledge of FA2 is important. If you've forgotten your basic FA1 and FA2, go revise them. FA1 is very basic. If you've forgotten them, go revise them. It's very key. So one key thing we can also highlight is the financial ratio analysis. You know, your profitability ratios, name them, ROA, ROE, okay, return on assets, return on equity or return on investment, return on capital employed, okay, which of the returns refers to which of the profits? You know them. I'm not teaching ratio analysis here. Gross profit margin, net profit margin, operating profit margin, you know them, okay. Talk of your liquidity ratios, your current ratio, your quick ratio. You should understand what it means, the interpretations thereof, not just the quantifications or the calculations, okay? You know your efficiency ratios. You know them. You know your efficiency ratios, okay? You know your working capital ratios. So your efficiency ratios, asset turnover, net non-current asset turnover, you know them. You know the formulas, how it is calculated. I'm not asking you to calculate anything. Okay, I'm not asking you to calculate anything. I'm asking you to be able to understand its interpretations and how you can use it for audit planning. That's all. Okay, I'm not going to ask you to calculate anything. For now, no. For now, no. Okay, maybe in future, yes, but for now, no. All right, so interpretation and how you can use it to plan and to identify some risk, that's what we want you, okay? You know the investor ratios, the PE ratios, the EPS, the dividend yields, okay, name them. The working capital ratios, inventory turnover days and receivable days and payable days and cash conversion cycles. You know them. You know the gearing ratios. US will say the leveraging ratios. You know them. The debt ratios, and you know them. All I'm saying is that your understanding in FA2 is very important and critical to this case study, and it carries 50 marks. Okay. So considering the financial performance of a particular company and using these foreknowledge of FA2 to plan your audit, to draw up audit procedures, where you think there are risks, identify them. Now, it is important to highlight particular themes which pop up and areas which could be prone to risks. What type of risk? I'll not go into this, else I'll be giving you answers or clues or hints. Are we talking of business risks? Are we talking of inherent or detection, control, or audit risks? You know what an audit risk is? A function of what? You know the risk of material misstatement. You know them. You know the components of a business risk or risk that affect a business. You know them. You know them. We dealt with them, okay? The idea here is focus on the higher risks, please. Any minor risk, why would you want to worry your head? Well, you can write about them, but it doesn't carry much weight. You only write about risks which are lower when you can anticipate that the lower risk or minor risk will one day metamorphose or grow, develop, evolve to become a significant risk. Otherwise, why would you worry yourself with minor and lower risk? Okay. So again, leverage on the financial performance to design your audit approach and procedures. Okay, one more thing, just to tell you what to write. Be specific on the type of audit procedures you want to design. Okay, avoid generic statements, please. For example, instead of saying that I will obtain the fixed asset register and check if everything has been included, I will obtain the fixed asset register or the non-current assets register to check if all assets have been included. That's a generic statement. If all assets. You know, assets is not just non-current assets. Inventories are assets, cash are assets. Okay, and when you say if all has been included, what do you mean by all? Okay, so if you are dealing with non-current assets, specifically on motor vehicles, it's specific what you are doing on motor vehicles. I'm looking at the title deeds of the motor vehicles to be sure that it jives with the details of the company. Okay, be specific. Okay, so you could say I want to obtain a detailed schedule of the fixed asset register, which shows the acquisition dates of the particular asset, okay? And original costs of the particular asset, in this case, motor vehicles. I would perform a detailed review of additions to. Have you read? Can you see? Instead of you saying, I'll perform a detailed review of the motor vehicles in line with PPE, you've said nothing. You are looking at detailed review in terms of the additions to the PPE, okay? Disposals to the PPE, so far as motor vehicles are concerned, in line with the acquisition and disposal policy of the company. So you're telling us that, listen, if we acquired a motor vehicle, was it in line with the policy of the company? You are driving it. You are being specific and detailed, all right? Remember, the test you will perform could cover both tests of controls and substantive tests. And the substantive test, you can do tests of details, right? You can do analytical reviews, perform analytical reviews. You know them. You know what goes into substantive testing. And tests of controls, you know them. Blend them to get the full marks, okay? So, for example, and I've highlighted some things here in red, and that is what sets out a good student of auditing from the rest, separates the men from the boys. Whenever you're writing about these procedures, you want to test something, you want to identify the risk associated, and you are designing a procedure using an approach, you must always bring in the management assertions. You know them. The rights and obligations, the completeness, accuracy, existence, you know them. You know them. You must bring them in. So, for example, I would perform detailed substantive testing on samples of transactions in payroll processing by reperforming payroll schedules, where I would compute PAYE, pay as you earn, the income tax, using the graduated tax rates. Can you see you just telling us I'm going to do a recalculation of the payroll? I'll calculate PAYE, some of them. I'll check whether I'm using the graduated tax rates, maybe in line with the Scottish tax regime or the UK or HMRC. Let me just put HMRC generic, okay? Generic because HMRC tax rates change. You know, it's so interesting why we are all in the United Kingdom and Scotland has their different tax graduated scales and England has different. I don't know about Wales, but I'm more concerned about England and Scotland. It doesn't make sense to me. To me, it doesn't make sense. But of course, there could be reasons behind. So you are saying I'm calculating PAYE using the graduated tax rates. I'm going to calculate to check the accuracy of NIs and pension deductions. And I'm going to trace the payroll disbursements, the final, the net pay, okay, to individual staff bank accounts through to the what? So you're going to obtain a statement from the banks. Of course, there will be a SWIFT records, which you can obtain from the payroll guys, and they'll tell you 1,000 was sent to Richard, 15,000 was sent to Renato, 10,000 was sent to Laura Phillips. Name them. Okay, this other guy, Steve, Reynard, Harvey Steven, Harvey Reynard. I don't know, I forgot his name. He's a very good guy. That's why I mentioned his name. Okay, so you're tracing them to the specific bank accounts, to the day books, to the ledgers, to the supporting schedules, supporting the income statement. And here you are saying you're looking at accuracy of calculation. You're looking at completeness. Has everything been included? Okay, so it's very important that you include this. Now, one more thing. Support each, like I said, with management assertion. Very key in any auditing and assurance exams. Very key if you want to achieve higher marks. Bring in appropriate management assertions you are testing. You could employ first person singular in discussion as per above. So no worries, okay? You can play neutral, okay? So you can say, I would ask for the breakdown of an explanation for the increase in net interest expense payable. I would. Or you could also say, it is important to obtain the breakdown of an explanation of the net increases. It is also important to perform further analytical reviews on the finance cost. You want to play neutral, that's okay. You want to go on your own, that's okay. Okay, that's okay. That's okay. Specific mentioning of account headings will be examined, very important. Because you find the scenario, and if you have to mention a specific, let's say interest expense and income, let's say non-current assets, mention them, the themes, before you narrow down on the specific audit procedures you want to perform applicable to that area. Okay. So example one more as we wrap up. I would ask for a breakdown of an explanation for the net increase in increase in net interest expense under the heading interest expense and interest income, or finance expense, finance cost, finance income, anyone you want to use. You know, they all relate to the same thing, okay? So here you are looking at existence, accuracy, and completeness. Beautiful. Management assertions brought in. I would also perform further analytical reviews on the finance cost or interest expense and any interest income receivable, if any, and ensure that these are in line with current interest rates and the types of investment held by the company. Accuracy. In fact, you could even add obligations and rights there, because if I own something, if I own an investment, that is a balance sheet item. Rights and obligations goes there, okay? If it is an interest expense, you have a loan, obligation, okay? So even with this accuracy, you could add R&O, rights and obligations, as a management assertion. Think aloud, think outside the box, add them. All right. Okay. The revision questions and what next. So I just populated these revision questions. Past quizzes online, try them. Past questions and solutions are online, try them. ACCA Auditing and Assurance exam kits and text, try them. Samples are in the library. Mellichamp and Taylor's Auditing Book 12th edition case study questions, beautiful ones, try them. Limited to the chapters treated under units 1 to 4. It could be extensive, but worth revising. Yeah. Ideal approach to understanding auditing is to undertake focus group discussions. That's my suggestion. If you have someone you discuss this with, that's good. Knowledge is not embedded in one person's head. And teaming up as study groups if feasible. Otherwise, if you don't have these, please do your self-study, ask questions, talk to your lecturers, post notices. If you have any questions, you have my email. You want to contact me, feel free, send an email. All right. Okay, I end here. Now, this is what I want to say. And I know some of you are not happy. You know, I personally don't work to please human beings. If I try to please human beings, I'll make enemies. If I want to please everybody, over 130 students on this model, I'll make enemies. I can't please everyone. So I don't normally work to please human beings, not even my co-workers or my line managers. I always work to please the system. If the system mandates me to do A, B, C, I'll do it. It's not about human beings, okay? All right, so I know most of you will not be happy. Questions that are being asked here and there, thrown at me, everything is being thrown, but I have a big heart, I entertain it. I've experienced it in the past. I will experience it in the future. I always make provisions for that. Some of you try to compare last year to this year, but last year they just did this one case study and multiple choice, and it was 60 marks. So the weighting is that if the multiple choice is 40%, 40 out of 60, and the case study is 20 out of 60, then it means multiple choice has 2/3 weighting of the overall marks, and then case study just has 1/3 weighting. 66.67. I mean, you are using simple ratio and analysis that it makes sense. So last year they didn't have enough pressure. This year they will have enough pressure. Last year is not this year. Last year is not this year at all. Okay. and so last year we were using 11th edition of the text. This year we are using 12th edition. Are they the same? I love SCCA. Look at the SCCA text. Look at the SCCA text. You will always see at the top, valid for September 2022 through up to June 2023. Is this thing the same as last year? Last year, you see, they would have written valid for September 2021 to June 2022. So they always update it. Last year is not this year. And the good thing about accounting and auditing is that standards are always changing. So we must always catch up with standards. If we want to use the same benchmark we used to assess last year to this year, we'll always be left behind. That's not what is done. We don't do that. We don't do it that way. Okay, so for my friends, I'm very serious with this particular last segment that I'm talking about. You don't compare last year to this year. We will not deviate from last year's structure. No. The technical quality from last year to this year, we will not compromise on last year's technical quality. We'll bring them in to this year and we'll build upon it. We'll add more. So far as we are concerned, we'll build upon it. Quality is important. SCCA, ICAS, ICAEW, which one? ICA Ireland. Listen, these guys are high-profile guys. They even require us. This is what I want to say. Ideally, my good friends, you are supposed to write these exams online, invigilated. So you come online on Zoom. Video is on, audio is off, and we'll see you and see what you are doing at the same time. But you are lucky. We allowed you that, listen, go, do it. You can do it in the comfort of your homes, in your office, on the park, whatever you think you want to do, do it. We are not too sure who is cheating or who is being held accountable for his work in terms of his integrity. We are not sure. We expect that it's a closed book, nobody is there, but who knows whether this book is closed by you and you are just referring, or the SCCA text is closed by you and you are referring. So that particular risk of cheating is high, and students not being held to their integrity is high. Other traditional universities I know, even with their online exams, last year, students were made to be online, video watched, invigilated by a number of people to ensure their integrity is held in high esteem. We are not doing that at UWS. Okay, we have been lenient. We know some of you may have parental responsibilities. So whilst you are writing, your child may come and worry you, your son. Okay, so we know. We try to accommodate it, but we don't compromise on quality. So you see the questions, it is high standard. You love it. You love the questions. And we'll be very, 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 very meticulous when we are marking it. Good enough for me. I have so much time to moderate. I'm not marking. The other lecturers will mark. And I'll moderate everything. And I have so much time to moderate. So if your marks are not good or they are suspicious, we will always call you to book. So make sure you work to standard. Your integrity is at stake. Do it on your own. Don't let somebody, don't contract somebody. Don't ask someone to write for you. Please, we'll find out very easily. And when we find out, we'll refer you to the plagiarism committee or to the disciplinary committee, and you could be suspended. So do what you can do, pass easily. That's all. That's it. So friends, all the best in your studies, in your revision towards the exams. One more thing. Some of you may not have read that notice I put online. If you take a look at the model handbook, you will realize that the class test covers unit 1 to 4. If you take a look at the model handbook, unit 5 contains three chapters. Chapter 8, chapter 10, chapter 12. That covers unit 5. Unit 5 is not being examined in the coursework, in the class test, sorry. But if you look at unit 1 to 4, you realize that in unit 1 to 4, we were supposed to have treated chapter 8, chapter 10, and chapter 12. I intentionally did not treat chapter 10 in units 1 to 4. I intentionally did not treat chapter 10 in units 1 to 4. And I only spooled that one out and treated it in chapter 5. It's intentional. But ideally, I would have expected you to have read chapter 10. Follow the module handbook. The module handbook, so there are questions that students send me emails and ask me, and I don't respond to their emails because they have not read the module handbook. They have not. In fact, the module handbook will even tell you that on the week of the exams, of the class test, there's no tutorial. But students will still come back and say, so do we have tutorials on that week? And you ask yourself, have they read the module handbook? The module handbook has clearly specified the calendar. Friends, I wouldn't talk much. I'll leave it here. I wish I could see you face to face, get your questions, and then tell me what you think needs to be considered, and we'll work it out. You'll be fine. I leave you. Take care, and all the best. Bye.